is here's a prickly pear flower.
Very nice.
And you've got a sleeping bee in there.
Oh, is he sleeping or is he just intoxicated?
I think, yeah, one of the two probably. Now, what's interesting about the prickly pear, the apontioid flowers, is that if you go ahead and hit, you see how the stamens are reactive?
Oh, yeah.
And that's by design, probably to take advantage of any pollinator that might be moving in there. So when the bee comes in, those stamens start to kind of massage it and reach in and grab it.
That's interesting.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah, really fascinating.
See that?
Wow, super responsive.
Super reactive. And, it could be even better in one where there wasn't just a bee. But
Yeah.
here's our local Salvia columbaria. It's an annual chia.
It looks like it's in seed now.
It's in seed now, and you can eat the seeds, and it tastes like just like any other chia that you. The saguaro, Carnegie gigantea, so named. It's a monotypic genus in honor of Andrew Carnegie, the steel magnate and philanthropist who helped to fund the Desert Laboratory here in Tucson back in 1903. It's probably, at some point, will probably get lumped into Pachycereus or perhaps even Neobuxbaumia.
There's still confusion about its taxonomic, where it fits in the taxonomic tree.
In this case, it's more of a political thing, an homage, you know what I'm saying? So the saguaro is probably the archetypical cactus. I think that when many people think of cactus, this is the form they think of. I mean, you see it everywhere, and from advertising to emojis. I mean, that's global. The Sonoran Desert is the only place that it grows. That being the Mexican state of Sonora, state of Arizona, and a little bit west of the Colorado River in California. This is its geographical hotspot, Tucson and the local environs. West of here, it reaches its limits on the east and north, and that's mainly due to temperature, and that would be frost. They typically get arms anywhere from 50 to 75 years of age, and that all depends on the ecological niche that individual happens to be sitting in. The most favored biogeography of the saguaro is going to be on south-facing rocky slopes with good drainage and adequate light. In the western deserts near Yuma, they may never even get arms. They may just remain spears. And in that locale, they generally follow drainages coming off the mountains. It almost becomes a riparian species at that point. It just needs that moisture. Yeah.
So are these really shallow rooted or?
Very shallow rooted. There is a large anchoring taproot, but these shallow roots are within the first few inches of the soil, and generally they're going to radiate out as long as the plant is tall. And then, of course, when we have a biannual rain regime here, so we get about half of our water in the winter, half in the monsoonal time, and one reason for those shallow roots is that they can quickly take up those deluges or downpours of the monsoon.
Is this would be considered like a climax species or a keystone species, or what is it since it's so prominent within this landscape?
It's actually a very recent species. It's only been in the Tucson area probably for the last 10,000 years. People actually predate it here. There was hunter-gatherer societies here before the saguaro. And during the warming of the Pleistocene, it, like many other subtropical plants, moved up.
Can you talk about what uses a saguaro? Because from my understanding, it is a species that many other birds and pollinators and everything use.
Absolutely. So aside from people harvesting the fruit for thousands of years, birds and wildlife utilize it. The Gila woodpeckers often will make nests in the lower portion of the plant, in the stem, in the main stem. Northern flickers will often make their nests in the upper part of the...
I saw a northern flicker on the top of one outside of my hotel.
Yeah, and generally that's not detrimental to the plant, but those northern flicker holes, because they're closer to the apex, where the stem narrows. Sometimes if you get a lot of cavities in there, it can be susceptible to wind throw because of that. So when it flowers, the main pollinator in the daytime would be dove, white-winged dove, and at night bats, and then other insects during the day. It flowers open at night and last till about noon the next day, and then that flower is completely done and replaced by another.
And is this a plant that is heavily poached?
Yeah.
I mean, it's so huge. How does one
I don't think it's uncommon for plants, smaller sized plants, maybe knee-high plants along roadsides or pullouts, to be poached. It is illegal to dig one up. Even if you're going to dig up one on your own property, you have to have a Department of Agriculture tag stay with that plant while it's being translocated. So absolutely protected species, state flower.
It's so iconic, huh?
Absolutely. Could be the nurse tree of this particular plant. So often birds will eat the seeds, sit in the limbs of a palo verde or a desert ironwood. They'll deposit those seeds in the surrounding soil, and then the saguaro seed does not survive very long out in the open, maybe 6 days after it falls to the ground. So it has to be in the shade of a plant. It has to have some degree of moisture. So these trees offer shade, warmth in the winter for young plants, and then protection against heat in the summertime. It's pretty susceptible in the beginning parts of its life. It doesn't really, its chances of survival are much increased by the time it's probably several years old, by about knee high. Up until that time, it's very susceptible to rodent predation or what have you. It's often thought that saguaros kill their nurse plant. Depending on the species of tree that might be, it might be the case that they often outlive the nurse plant. It's not uncommon to see several different generations of saguaros spaced. I've seen as many as 20 under a single small tree.
And what's the average age that these live to? Hundreds of years, right?
120. There are individuals that probably make it to 200 years. Yeah.
And you said this one should be maybe at least 50 or 70 years old before it starts getting its...
Yeah, and again, that depends on the ecological niche that it sits on, how much water it's getting, it's just a lot of variables there.
Keep tuned here on Plant One On Me because we have more great tours through Tucson, Arizona, and beyond. Now, if you love what we produce, do us a favor and give the videos a like, subscribe, and hit the notifications button, as your support matters. 1% of our Google AdSense revenue is also donated to plant conservation as well. And you can also find a suite of online houseplant and related courses on our website, homesteadbrooklyn.com, including the Houseplant Masterclass, an audiovisual course, and even our medicinal herbs flowchart. We'll see you in the next episode.